Hey, everybody. Oh, I guess it is that time. Hey, grab your favorite beverage and come join us on the All Over Overland show, hosted on Overland Radio. Tonight's special guest is Rogue Element. And if you don't know Rogue Element, they produce some fantastic content. Their videos are great and their rigs are just amazing. So come join us tonight and get in on the shenanigans. Hey, that time again. As if you didn't know that from the first video that I played. It's that time again. Welcome to the show. Michael is going to be on with us in just a minute. But before we get started, special shout out to all our sponsors, the Overland Attic, the Overland Essentials, Midland Radios. We really appreciate you guys and all that you do to help us bring all this content to you. So tonight's going to be, I hope, a very entertaining show, right, Michael? Michael's giving in the background. He's giving me the thumbs up. So, anyway, should be a great show. Look forward to having our guest on. But before that, probably should bring the guy that hosts the show in and see what's happening with him for a while.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the All Over Overland show. Lee, your intro was amazing. We've already got a comment that says, what the dog is the animation thing, which I have a hard time.
Yeah,
Lee has been working
today
on that for a couple days and sent it to me today without me knowing anything. And I probably watched it 50 times at least.
I'm working on another one.
I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. You've got one on Instagram that talks about Jeeps and Toyotas, so go check that out. But that's kind of, he's working on doing some, he's going to maybe even have me in one of them.
Yeah.
We talked about that. So
we're going to try to get one where we go back and forth and talk, and there's some other motion stuff I'm trying to learn. So I want to be able to do it and be entertaining for all those that listen and watch us.
That's funny. You got to put that up there.
What?
You got to put this one up there. It's like he wants to be in the metaverse. It's exactly like he wants to be in the metaverse. So yeah, that's a learning curve for you. How are you enjoying that? Working on those last couple of days.
It's not too bad. I think once you get the basics of it down and you go to YouTube University for a while,
yeah,
it's not too terribly bad. I mean, there's just a lot of steps involved. There's a lot of layers. It's like doing a video on or editing a video. You have all the layers, and so to do it, you got to do that. So
yeah.
Anyway, what's
still waiting to get your truck and alley cab sold?
I've had a few people, hit on it, but nobody's, I don't know. I guess you get a lot of tire kickers. It's part of the game. It's okay.
50% off if you buy it right now.
No, that shit ain't flying. I guarantee you that.
You're not going to knock it down 50% for a 30-minute sale?
I'll go out there and set fire to that bitch first.
Yeah.
No, not really. But no, hey, if it doesn't sell until after the holidays, then it don't sell after the holidays. But
what
either
sucks
way,
is you're not driving it, so you can't go anywhere or do anything.
I have 49,006 miles on it, and I just adamant I'm not going over 50,000. And I know that seems crazy, but I'm just not doing it. So, but I need it to hurry up and sell because I mean, I'd like for it to hurry up and sell because I mean, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. So, I thought I was going to do the Sprinter, but that's a 2-year wait. So here comes the truck camper build.
Yep. And we haven't been on for the last couple weeks. My power went out, and then it was election week, which we have decided since last election that we're never doing that again on election.
No. We don't get on there during election.
Yeah. So this is our first time back in a couple weeks. And in that process, I've put together a few videos on the Sugar Creek Loop, a up and coming, really popular trail here in Oklahoma. Yes, we're in Oklahoma. I know, overlanding Oklahoma. How's it possible? But what's amazing about this trail, it's less than 100 miles from the metro area. So
yeah,
there's a lot of people here that are into this, that are into that outdoor lifestyle, the overlanding, the camping, the off-road trucks, all the stuff. And it's a good little day trip, weekend trip for people to do, just 100 miles from the metro area. And Oklahoma is not an open land, public land access kind of place. So you got to do what you got to do.
Damn Skippy.
And Jared put that together, and it's a fun loop. We had more fun on the third day with the trail, and it was surprising because that was a day I didn't think there was going to be much to do. But speaking of YouTube videos, we have a guest tonight that has put together some pretty. Is he ready? He's like,
it looks like he was stripping it, getting naked back there. He's not doing a Michael, is he?
Hopefully not.
God.
But he's putting together some videos, and he's got kind of an exciting thing going on with putting some videos out in a different. I'll let him talk about it. So, are you ready to bring it up?
But
okay, it's back up.
Before we do that, do us a favor. Do us a favor and go out there and share this with everybody, and let them know that we're live. I need to send out my text message, but I'm kind of behind. So, hey, let's just bring our guest in. All right.
All right. We've got Jeff from Rogue Element. Bring him on.
Gentlemen, how are you?
How are you doing, man?
Shit. Don't ever use that word with us. Well, okay, wait. Don't ever use that word with Michael in your presence.
Yeah. It's I don't know how to respond. I get all clammy and weird.
Yeah. It's like you've put a spotlight on him.
That's great.
Well, dude, we're really excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
And I think that Olivia said, "Hey, you need to reach out." From Midland said, "Hey, you need to reach out."
Oh yeah, Olivia, that's my gal, man. She's awesome.
Yeah, and get him on there. And I was like, "Okay, I'll send a message." And you were quick to respond and come on. So we really appreciate that. And going through, we will keep up with the there's a chat area.
Yeah, I see that.
You can look at, and it's hard to do it when you're on the show.
Yeah,
we're kind of trained professionals, so we'll try to keep it up as much as we can. Lee kind of handles that, but I was excited,
like bullshitters,
because I started looking at some of your videos and I saw a bunch of our familiar faces. Chad with Living the Van Life, Badass Burnett's on there, and we haven't had Donald on yet with Soft Roading the West, but Lee's talked to him several times, and
he's coming soon.
Looking forward to get him on there. But you've got a fun project, and let's tease that, and then we'll get to kind of some backstory. But
yeah,
what do you have about ready to roll out?
So we have a project that we've been doing since January, actually, and we filmed all the way up until July, and then we've been editing since. And I'm literally like, I'm looking at this other screen, and I'm still editing. We're just putting the final touches on it, and it's called Divergent Pathways. So it's, I believe, the first ever like docu-series for overlanding. We did 3 films in this, and 3 different types of facets inside overland. What makes up overlanding, right? Friends, people who have met through overlanding, acquaintances, the businesses, some startups, people who give us product to be able to do this, genre. And then the third one is influencers and YouTube personalities that show the world how it can be done. And it goes live next Wednesday on Amazon. Hopefully on Amazon. Who knows with those guys, those clowns.
It's been kind of a difficult thing with you guys with the Amazon thing. I say difficult, like I think you had a date and then it got pushed back a little.
Yeah, originally it was September, and then I got an email saying, hey, we got to push it back. There was some other things going on. I think it had to do with the NFL rollout or something. Who knows? But they wanted to push it back. And a lot of it, I think, was, I don't know if it's them looking out for our success or whatever. I have a hard time believing that. And I'm sitting here talking shit about, them. I've had other shows on before and it's been a nightmare. We're not allowed to even have any URL on there. Like we can't say, hey, go buy our merch at rogueelementfilms.net. They'll yank it because it takes people off of Amazon because God forbid they don't make enough money. Yeah. And so we have to do 2 edits. And also because we're not an Amazon original or an actual huge production company, we have to upload in 1080 HD instead of 4K. And we shot everything in 5 and 6K. We dumb it down to 4K. And then, so that's why I was like, you know what? Screw it. I don't have a contract that says I can't share this wherever I want. So I'm going to YouTube with it too. So it'll also be on YouTube. We know it'll be on YouTube because I'm putting it there and I'm the one that approves it. I don't have to wait for everything. So we're trying to get everything over to Amazon in time. We've had a couple of things that we've had to kind of change creatively. And then I brought on some licensed music that or actual bands that we wanted to help promote and kind of get some real original good music in instead of just like royalty free crap. Yeah. And so we kind of give this thing a little bit of life. And so yeah, it's ready to kick some ass. And we're hoping we're doing all the advertising. Amazon doesn't do anything. My previous show was called Brotherhood of Brew, and it killed it on there. It did really good. Okay, good. It probably did better overseas than it did here in the US, but the pandemic helped with that. I think people were cooped in and people were just exploring for stuff to watch, and it just blew up. I think we did like 74 million minutes streamed in 18 months, and we're hoping this just destroys that. I'm hoping that it's well received. I think it will be. It's shot very cinematic, as you guys can see in the teasers. Yeah. The crew, which one of them's in here right now. Welcome to the Outdoors. There he is right there. Right on. Yes. So to answer Braxton's question, the Amazon cut, the only thing that's different between the two is going to be YouTube will be edited as far as like curse words and stuff because it helps with our monetization. And believe me, I drop a lot of F-bombs. So we never do that. I know, right? And so I've got to go through and do that. And then
YouTube doesn't like that?
No.
Oh, that's our problem.
Though they're okay with it, right? They don't give a shit. But if I want to make money on it and I want to advertise, it doesn't limit me. So I'm willing to kind of play that game. I know it's a little bit of a sellout thing. We don't have to do it on Amazon. But then in the name tags, when we introduce people like living the van life, we're going to put their, ways so you can find them, like their Instagram handle. And at the very end, we're going to give ways to be able to find people, a link to our merch, all sorts of stuff like that. And be able to do what we're supposed to do, right? Try to make money off of this thing. I'm hoping I break even with it. I broke even with the last one somehow. And this one, it's 90% self-funded. So, it was getting sponsor money in a pandemic is, I would rather get a root canal, and I had one yesterday. So, it's just one of those things, but that's the answer. Braxton's question is yes. That's the only thing that's going to be different. The actual edit itself there's nothing different. It'll be the same on both.
Gotcha. So, okay. So we're going to put that, we've teased that. We're going to put that on the back burner and probably go back to that in a minute, but I have a question. I like asking this question to people, like whenever I know that they've gotten into overlanding and there's something else to it. What came first, the videography stuff or the overlanding outdoor lifestyle stuff?
Oh, the lifestyle. So I my first rig was a Jeep Wrangler. Okay. My first rig was a muscle car, but it never really ran right. So the one I drove in high school was a Wrangler, a YJ. And so that was my first thing back when it was just called camping or, sleeping in your car like a poor person. But we did that shit all the time. We would just go out and drive in the middle of nowhere, which in the third episode, you're going to see where we went as high schoolers and where we went. Nice. We would find a place or like a clear cut with a no turnaround on a cat road. And we would we would just either sleep in our rigs or on the ground and, have our older brothers and stuff buy us beer, and we get hammered and kegers out in the middle of nowhere. And that was overlanding.
Yeah.
And,
it's still what it is.
It really is. And we did it in 4-wheel drive, so the cops couldn't get to us. And, we were a little bit smarter with it in college.
And the girlfriend's dads can't find you that way.
Oh, I came in a small town. Girlfriend's dads are usually with us.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. The ones that had dads who gave a shit were they didn't get to go outside at night.
Yeah, that's true. True. So, what area are you from? Where are you at right now?
Well, I'm from Oregon, so I'm from Bend, Oregon.
Okay.
I went to high school on the Oregon coast, but I live in Alameda, California, which is Bay Area, so East Bay. I'm like right next to Oakland. It's a little island that used to be a Navy base.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Right on. So you got into that.
He went from one commie state to another commie state.
Oh, I can't believe within the last week, Oregon got worse than California. I never thought I'd see that.
Hey, Oregon passed a pretty gnarly gun bill.
That's what I'm saying. That 114, holy hell, man. I feel bad. I don't think it'll see the light of day. I bet they've already had 100 lawsuits against them, but it's...
Oh, I'm sure.
I was pouring one out last night for my buddies. I was just like, you sorry bastards. I was like, this is what happens when California and their locusts go to another states,
That's when I want to go outside and video the Ma Deuce and full auto and send it to them and go
freedom. Yeah. I know. I have friends that have they've got their class 3, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? Because it includes you. Yeah. I was like, you're full auto, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange week last week. That's one of the reasons why we don't go live, because Lee and I would just be fuming. Smoke coming out of our ears and stuff like that whenever there's an election. So, but you had the YJ and what are you in right now? Like what's your vehicle? Or are you in between? Do you have one right now? Lee's kind of in between, so that's why I asked. So
no, I'm definitely not in between. I've got a 21 Power Wagon.
Okay.
And I am restoring currently in the middle of a restoration on an 85 Wagoneer that we're doing a Hemi swap in.
Oh,
yeah, that's fun.
Nice.
It just left. I just had the whole engine bay and under hood painted. It just got done with that last Thursday. So now my buddy Brandon's been building the Hemi for me. It's ready to go. We got rid of all the multi displacement. So it's running straight Hemi all the time, all 8 cylinders. We teamed up with Holly and Summit Racing on that one. So they've sent me every part you can think of for that motor. So basically the power or the Wagoneer, so many wagons. The Wagoneer is going from 155 horsepower out of that boat anchor 360 that had all the emissions on it. Wow. It's going from that to about 550 to 575 horsepower because depends on how we tune it. I'm running a Holly Terminator Max on it. Full standalone system, so we'll be able to adjust it by the fly. But it's for the most part, other than a 3-inch, I have 3-inch leaf spring lift all the way around. We're adding a couple things to make it a little bit softer, but I'm not stock wheels. It's going to look stock on the interior for the most part. We got with cat skin. They sent us new replacement leather. Oh yeah. We got new carpet that's all factory, so it's going to look factory. The dash is pristine, so we're not touching it. So all our screens are going to be behind the glove compartment, which is in the center. It's perfect. So we're building out a panel in there that will have the 3-inch screen for the Terminator, and then it's going to have some other stuff in there. The only thing that's not going to be really, I would say, period correct is I'm building a console. I don't know what in 85 they were thinking, but they didn't build any cup holders in these bastards.
Well, and you just held it.
I know, you put it in between your legs, I guess.
Hold on to it.
So we're building a custom center console that goes all the way up and meets the center, and then we're putting a 10-inch Stinger audio like nav system or whatever, a screen on there, so it shows our articulation, has like full off-road pages on there, and then 2 cup holders, some USBs, and then in the back we took the cigarette ashtrays that are in the door panels. We pulled those out. We 3D printed inserts into them, and those have USB and USB-C ports for the kids in the back.
Yeah.
And then Stinger Audio and Phoenix Audio are doing a complete stereo system and hiding everything in the rear quarter panels. It's going to look all pretty similar, but the coolest part I think about all this, I mean, the Hemi's pretty cool.
Yeah,
but the coolest part about this is SS Customs, which is like my man over there, Sharif. He's like OG guy for wraps, right? He's one of the guys that came up and started vinyl wraps and printing on vinyl wraps. When I bought this out of Oregon a year and a half ago, it is like a 9 out of 10 on the body. It only had a couple little dings here and there that my paintless dent repair guy was able to get out. So it's all patinaed and everything right now, but I took all the vinyl trim. You know why there's vinyl on a Jeep? Like the fake wood trim? Do you ever hear that story of why why it's like that? So back in the 80s when they first came out with that so the doors themselves have never changed on a Jeep, a Wagoneer. So from when they were Kaiser to 1995 when they stopped making them, the doors themselves are actually the same. So in the 80s, to save money, what happened is their steel stamps were pitted. So they were finding imperfections in the metal. So they added the vinyl to cover it instead of buy new stamps or create new stamps, which are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. They just put the vinyl on it, but it ended up being just their best mistake, right? And it just went on, and they're still using it today in certain things. So anyways, the wrap is we're wrapping it. We're not repainting it. New paint job was like $13,000. I was like, holy shit, and you're not going to find a body shop in the world we're not big enough to get sponsored by a body shop or something and they have so much work right now. It's ridiculous. But so what we're doing is we teamed up with SS Customs and he's going to do a wrap. That's going to be the dark blue, but it's going to be a matte blue instead of gloss. And it matches almost perfect. And then the wood trim is what they call a live wood vinyl. So you can feel it. It feels like wood. But from far away, it just looks like a normal, wood side.
It has
wrap.
A little bit of texture to it.
Yeah, it does. It's really cool. It's self-healing. So if you jack it up, you apply heat to it and it heals back up. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. But so for that, and then a removable Rhino Rack Pioneer platform. It's just, and that platform clears by like a half an inch over the factory chrome shitty little roof rack thing that it comes with, but it's going to look basically stock. I'm not tinting the windows. It's just going to look good, sound good, kind of just going to be a fun rig for us to cruise around as a family, and I'm going to take it up in the woods and beat it up a little bit and have some fun with it.
Perfect, man. That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
That is awesome. Usually, like, you've answered one of my questions that I like to ask is, what would be your dream, not brand new, but dream older vehicle? And it sounds like you're doing it.
Definitely not a Wagoneer. Believe it or not.
Wouldn't be your dream?
No, not even close.
You're doing this much work, and it's not even a dream vehicle of yours.
So here's the long. I'll try to make it short. So May of last year, actually go back further. May of 2020, right in the beginning of the pandemic, I sold 2 months prior. I had a 15 Cummins Ram 2500 that I absolutely loved. It just didn't have enough creature comforts in it, and it was getting high in mileage. I had like 120,000 miles, which is not high for a Cummins, but I talked myself into selling it when I really, in hindsight, I should have just kept it. I love that truck. Everything was perfect in that truck, basically, except it didn't have dual air and a couple other things. And dual air, when you're going on a cold trip with a woman, is priceless, because if you don't have it, you are going to burn and sweat your ass off.
Yeah.
It could be like 15 degrees outside and I'd have to be in like gym shorts and a tank top, and she would be bundled up with it at like 80 and I would still be sweating my ass off on a trip. So that was like the deciding factor for me to sell that. So I drove a client's Raptor, 2nd gen Raptor, and I fell in love with it. It's the best interior that's ever existed as far as I'm concerned. Period. It's so ergonomically correct. It drove nice. It was fast as hell. It had paddle shifters. I was like, me with my racing background, I was like, this is fun. I probably should buy one of these. So in May of 2020, I bought one. A year later, 32 check engine lights, $18,000 to $20,000 worth of repairs, warranty repairs. I was done. Funnest off-road rig I've ever owned. Absolute piece of shit.
Biggest pain in the ass.
Piece of shit. And it's like, I should have got onto Raptor like Facebook groups and did my research first, because I would have found out how ridiculously finicky they are. I should go with the 1st gen, period. And so a year later, I bought it for 54 grand. I sold it for 71 because the market went ape shit in 2021. And so I had money left over after I paid my loan off, and my wife and I were talking. I was like, "What do we get? You know, we're trying to buy a house. How about we just buy an older classic, cruise it around, find something I can fit 3 car seats in, and you know, let's do it." And she loves the Wagoneer. I'm a Jeep guy. This is my 8th Jeep, and I worked for Mopar for spent 20 years in the car business, and about 15 of it was with Dodge. So I was like, well, she likes it. I like it. I tried to buy one in Chicago, ended up having too much rust underneath. And for somehow in a Wagoneer Facebook group, I saw this one in Myrtle Creek, Oregon, just podunk ass town of like 2,500 people. And I bought it over Facebook, called the guy up, wired him some money to hold it. And I said, I'll be back. I'm flying up to Eugene, getting a ride down, and I'll bring some cash. And actually, it's on our YouTube channel. If you watch it, you can see the whole transaction. I fly filming up, buying it. I make it all the way down to Red Bluff, California, which is about 6 hours away from where I bought it. The front right tire completely blew out. The tires I ended up finding out were like 15 years old. The spare was so old that I reached up to grab it. My hand went through the rubber. I had to almost hitchhike. It's pretty funny, but it ran like a champ up until we pulled the motor.
Wow. So how many Jeeps have you had?
This is my 8th. I believe it's 7th or 8th.
Wow.
Hold on a second.
Oh yeah, we got some.
Oh my God, created Toyotas, right? Because Jeeps need heroes too.
You don't want to get me started on Toyota. Buddy.
So what's even funnier is that Lee doesn't like either one of them.
I don't like either one.
Oh, you don't?
Oh. No, he's not a fan of either one. So when he showed that to me, I was like, "That's dumb," because you don't even you don't even care. You don't have a dog.
I told him it was only to stir the pot between the Toyota and the Jeep guys. That's all I was trying to do.
That's like my favorite thing to do on Instagram is just tool on Toyota guys.
Oh
yeah,
man,
Lee had a 4Runner and it was a dog. I mean, absolute dog.
I had a 5th gen
trailer, couldn't nothing.
I had a 5th gen 4Runner. It was the biggest piece of shit I've ever owned.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the 9 recalls I had in the 6 months I owned it, it like when I'd go around a corner and it would lean, like ABS would go ape shit. It wheeled like shit. It rubbed everywhere. You can't fit a decent tire on it without cutting everything. It's a piece of shit. I worked for Toyota right around 2009, 2010 when they had the really bad recalls where their Priuses and Odysseys were killing people.
Yeah.
I showed up to work one day. We couldn't even park anywhere because people had parked all their cars at the dealership. We couldn't even park there. They were afraid to drive them. This was up in Portland.
Wow.
And that was 07 is about when Toyota legendary Toyota reliability died, and that's when a lot of cars did it too, because in all fairness that's when they started putting computers for everything, in 07. That's the first time they really went to a 4-computer system in a car. And but before then, I was all about 01 Tacoma's still one of my favorite rigs. That exhaust tone and that 6-cylinder sounds so good with a Flowmaster on it. They wheel their ass off. You can they're still the narrow tire king next to the Nissan Titan. But it's I will tool, and I don't know what it is, but every time we're filming almost, we tow out a fucking Toyota. I don't know how it works. On our Brotherhood of Brew, we tow out Toyota. On it twice. On this series, we pull out a Toyota. It just somehow it works, and it's always a Ram pulling it out. And so, because we get guys that are like, oh, yeah, you guys Rams or Fiats, they're going to break down. It's like, well, I'm a man, first of all, so I like horsepower. And if I wanted to get out and push my rig, I'd buy a Tacoma because you're going to push it faster and you can drive it.
I always think it's funny when I talk to Toyota people and they talk about the legendary, longevity and how durable they are. But they'll say, if you own this one, you need to replace this part. And if you own this one, you need to replace this part. And I was like, well, then if you're having to replace, then how's the legendary reliability?
Well, here's the thing.
Weak links in all of them. So
this is what I tell guys who own 4Runners and Tacomas. Your shit doesn't break down because it doesn't have enough horsepower to fucking break it. So
it's never maxing it
That's
out.
why our Fiats are always breaking down, because it's got so much goddamn nuts underneath it. You drag them long enough and then they're going to break.
too funny.
Oh my gosh, funny. Okay.
Yeah, we're right there with you.
Oh, totally. I got to ask this. So on your Instagram page, outside of the normal, you got the Power Wagon and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you got a Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a Q7.
It's a Porsche Cayenne, yeah.
Oh,
the Q7, no, that's a Tiguan.
Oh, the Tiguan?
Well, you got it's a Tiguan, but then you got an Audi.
An Audi.
It looks like a Q7.
Oh, no, the Audi is an all-road, A4 all-road.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are traditional. I mean,
no.
Where'd these guys come from?
We've seen the Porsche come up quite a bit. I mean, people are starting to.
Oh, yeah, Harry's really out there, man. That guy's killing it.
Yeah, they're starting to really appreciate that Porsche and what it can do. But yeah, the Tiguan and the Audi were a little eyebrow raising for me. Even I was like, and I'm a weird vehicle guy. I rolled a Jeep Liberty for years.
So Nate's in here. He goes by Nate's Nomadic Adventures, and I can see him in the chat here. And
oh yeah, right.
Nate was one of my groomsmen, and I've known Nate forever. He's one of my best friends. He
okay. What's he drive though? Wait,
he drives the Tiguan.
Okay,
the camoed out Tiguan, yeah.
So he's a cool guy in my book because have Volkswagen.
Yeah, he's a Volkswagen guy.
My wife drives an Atlas. I've been trying to get her to lift it, but she wants to lower it instead of lift it. It's just funny.
We got one, the Atlas R line sitting in the driveway. We got
nice.
2 Passats.
I love Volkswagen, man. And even Nate, like when I first met Nate, he used to work for me, and I had this really shitty stereo store, and he helped me do like detailing and transmission swaps and other shit. We hardly ever put stereos in. We did more like tuner stuff. It was like at the end of the Fast and the Furious craze. It was like 2004. And shit, one time he's like, hey, instead of paying me, just buy me this GTI that was next door to us at this transmission shop. And the guy's like, I don't want to fix it. And he's like, I can't figure out, there's some electrical bug in it. So I just bought it for him instead of paying him his paycheck that month. And we started working on it. Nice. And he's been a Volkswagen guy ever since. But so this is the funny story about Nate and that damn Tiguan. So August of 2021, we're out in Colorado at Expo Mountain West. And I'm out there filming for a company called Got Your Six Coffee. We're filming a TV pilot for him. And he lived in Denver, and I hadn't seen him forever. I hadn't seen him in years, since my wedding almost. And I was like, hey, I'm flying out to Denver. I need some help. At the time, I was literally 2 days after I got back from that trip, I had major rotator cuff surgery and labrum surgery. It was just all torn up. And I was like, I'm going to need some help carrying gear and some other stuff. I can barely hold my camera up. I had a big shoulder rig. And he's like, yeah, I'll come out and hang out and stuff and camp. And I was like, yeah, dude, we'll just work during the day and get shit faced in the afternoon. And so he comes out and he sees all these Overland rigs, at this expo. And he's like, holy shit, these are so cool. And he's seeing like really unconventional Subarus and stuff lifted and, other things like this. Shit, a month later, he's got that fucker in the air. It's lifted. It's got, bigger tires and wheels and wrap. It's got a tent on top. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I was like, we're such bad influences on our friends.
Run what you brung.
Well, Gene was with there. So Gene has the Audi. He's one of my good friends. He's like the unofficial member of Rogue Element. And he's the one that drives the Audi. And it's lifted. And, we take him everywhere. But Gene was there and he sees it and he's like Nate's crawling underneath looking at all the the leveling kit and how he did certain shit. And it's but yeah,
he just left a comment for you.
Yeah, I know. My badge is broken. Yeah, it's always broken, awesome. Buddy. Hang around with you guys. But yeah, so that's when he lifted it. But wait, you guys are it's the only I've edited the last 2 episodes, which we're going to have a kind of a bonus thing on the last one, which is neat. But the first one is where we go through Death Valley. And that's where Nate's with us in his Tiguan. And you guys are going to see this guy send this son of a bitch. He ended up leaving with like half his bumper hanging off. He had damage in the front. He had one of his door panels, I think, was like one of the plastic door panels was like either dented or ripped off. I mean, he just flat out sent it.
All those future upgrades.
That's what I always say too. And he's like, I'm worried about my wrap. The wrap ended up taking it fine as far as I can see. Yeah. But he just was getting so frustrated on some of those. We were in Goler Wash in Mingal Pass, and he just was like really struggling. And he's like, fine, he just put it in launch and just send it up and over shit.
Yeah, Chad saying that, asking if I remember the CRX, that Big Iron. There was a CRX that had 31, 32s on it. I mean, Mad Maxed out. It was ridiculous. It was awesome. I mean, I'd love to play with it. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. But yeah, I like the weird shit. But yeah, when you start tearing shit up, that's just an opportunity to upgrade.
That's what I always say too, man. I try to. I think I've broken something on every trip. Death Valley, I broke my rear drop down links on my sway bar, and I think I did that towing Christian because Christian's transmission went out on that in his Power Wagon. And I think when I was towing and the line got slack in it, and when it got straight, we were probably doing 50 miles an hour because I had to tow him from the middle of Death Valley all the way to Pahrump, which is close to Vegas. It was like 70 something miles, and a lot of it was in 4-wheel drive. But I think I broke it. Then we were on Mingal Pass, and my buddy Doug's like, "Dude, you know your sway bar is broken?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Yeah, check it out." And I was like, "Oh, well, more articulation."
Yeah.
So, and I drove it like that for like 2 months. You see me fix it in the second episode because I'm like, I had so much weight in the back because Christian wasn't there anymore. I was swaying all over the place. And they're like, yeah. And I had my links with me and they're like, just put it on. So we ended up putting it on at this burger joint on like the last day. But
one of the coolest things about the teaser that you had with the Tiguan and the Audi is that you've got these huge Ram trucks. Yeah. And then you've got these little cars,
these little midget
in
cars,
the middle of it. And it's just like, what is going on? It brings so many questions that you have to watch it to find out what's going on.
You do. You really do.
And then the way the Porsche sounds like blasting through the.
Yeah, it's like straight piped, comes out the side.
Oh, and then I was watching because we're friends with Chad, and he's like sliding the rear end over. You're like,
dude, I don't know how you didn't roll that son of a bitch.
Right?
I was like
the biggest set of balls on him.
Yeah.
When it comes to driving.
You can hear me on camera in the edit, and I'm just like, how's he doing that? How's it not rolling? Dude, we watched him get on 3 wheels and he just kept going. I'm like, what the? Yeah, it's all on there and it's fantastic glory.
I binge watch him quite a bit, even episodes that I've seen before. And there was one where when he had the Volkswagen. When dude, it all the time, and he's
drifting up through the snow. Yeah,
he's sliding around the corners on the snow and ice, and I mean, like
that's the first episode I watched of him, and I was like, "Who in the fuck is this guy?"
Right?
I was like, "He's in a 2-wheel drive van again in the snow." I was like, "Okay, I'll watch this."
Yeah,
and then he gets to cooking, and there's no talking. And I was just like, "Okay, I'm down with the ASMR. I like this because I'm a film guy, and back in the day, I was one of the first to kind of do an ASMR hunting film, and I was like, okay, this is cool." And I kept watching it, and then my kids started watching it with me, and then it was funny because I hired Evan Pollock of Pollock Pictures. He helped me co-direct this, and he's like, "Oh, you know Chad? Yeah, I know Chad." He's like, "Yeah, I've worked with Chad. He works in the state, or he lives in Bellingham, where I live." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Dude, we got to have him on a trip." So he texts him. He's like, or calls him right in the truck, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do a film with us?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm down. What are you guys doing?" And I was like, "Dude, yeah, you got to join us." I showed my kids after we get back. "You were with Chad with Living the Van Life?" I was like, "Yeah."
He's a cool dude.
He was awesome.
He did what was it, Michael? He did a short movie about Jesse. Was it Jesse Combs or something? He did.
He's doing a land speed record film. I think I don't know if it's done or not. He showed us the preview.
Like
I was like, "Holy shit!"
And
his what's it called? Emanate Studios, I think, is his thing. Man, I'm telling you, his work is amazing.
It's phenomenal.
He's just a nice guy, though, but he's funny as hell when it comes. I mean, like that Vanagon thing. I don't know how that thing's still rolling.
Dude, he sends it, man. Like he broke it on our trip. His Sprinter van, he broke it. And he had to try to fixing it on the second day. I don't know if he got it fixed the whole way until after the trip, but he didn't give a shit. Kept going.
He's just like, he's just like, "Oh, it's cool."
He called his mechanic. He's like, "Hey, can I just like keep going or whatever?" And he's like, "I mean, yeah, it's a crapshoot, but go ahead." And he's like, "Cool, done." Just shuts the hood and keeps going. I was like, "This guy, I fucking love this guy. He's awesome."
So since we're hitting on Chad, and Chad's obviously a phenomenal filmmaker, and seeing the stuff that you've put out, unbelievable. Some of the cinematography that I've seen so far. How did you get into filmmaking?
Well, I started as a photographer when I was 17 in journalism class in high school, and I'm doing darkroom, real film, and I entered into a contest to do portraiture, and I won a huge contest with a fashion magazine, and got flown out to New York, did some like runway stuff, and I ended up finding out that I didn't like that. It just wasn't. I mean, the art was cool, but it wasn't like my scene, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the half naked women was great, but you know, everything else, like I just wasn't into the politics of it and stuff. And like to be able to like make money in that, it's insanely difficult. It's like a 5% chance you're ever going to be successful in it. And so I got into the car business at 17 and started selling cars. And I realized I make more money selling cars at 18 years old than both my parents did combined working hard jobs. And so I stuck with it. I spent 20 years doing it, made a phenomenal living. But once I had my first kid, I was like, I'm not doing this. I've seen so many of my bosses go through multiple divorces. They missed, we work weekends, so they missed all the soccer games and everything else. And I told my wife once she ended up becoming a lawyer, I was like, once you're done with that, I'm going to pursue something else where I can be in these kids' life. So, and I grew up in like a, shitty broken home and stuff like that. So I was like, I got to be in my kids' life and whatever it takes, whether, I have to work at home or do whatever. So I started Psycan Media. And with that, the way I started it, believe it or not, is I was just doing side gigs for like photo stuff here and there. I was doing music videos. I really wasn't into video until 2010. I went to a thing called Full Draw Film Festival, which is about bow hunting. It's amateur filmmakers in a festival about bow hunting. And nice. I'm a hunter. So me and my buddy went. There was one in Portland and we went and watched it. And I was like, dude, I didn't fucking make this stuff. And he's like, whatever. And I was like, no, I'm dead serious, dude. I'll buy a camera. We can make this stuff. We can, some of these suck, dude, but some of them are really good. I was like, we can get there. So I ended up buying a camera. And I think 2 years later, we made our first film and it went on some film circuits, did pretty good. Didn't do too bad. I mean, it wasn't like, it wasn't going to win any awards really, but it was going to get some notice and it was going to kind of put us to that next level to where we could get sponsorships.
Yeah.
So then I put a crew together, mainly of friends. Only about 2 of them made it out of 8. They saw how hard it was going to be. And I was living in North Carolina while my wife was going to law school out there. And all my friends and everybody was out here on the West Coast. So somehow we made it work to where we were able to put together an actual full season, 7 episodes. And then we sold it to NBC Sports. We had a really good first season, did really well. Then they put it on a bunch of like Comcast Sportsnet channels. It did well there. We went to do a second season and I just had a huge falling out with my business partners. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. It was 14-hour drive away for most of them. And they were having all the fun. I was like flipping the bill. I was like the sugar daddy of the group. And then I wanted to go down another range because like the top 3% ish of hunting shows actually make money because that's a pay to play industry. People don't understand when you watch Sportsman's channel or Outdoor Channel, those guys who make those films, they're stroking a monster check to those channels for them to play it. And then they sell their own ad space.
Yep.
Where what we do now is you get either sponsorships or you get like Divergent Pathways is a little different. We invested in this. We're hoping that it comes to where we can get a network deal, right? I put the investment in to be able to do that. A couple sponsors that you'll see as title sponsors, they put a little bit of investment in to do it. For the most part, I paid for it all out of pocket, out of my company's pocket. And we're hoping that it gets us something, right? And it most likely will. But the hunting side, it's a bitch. And it's really hard on the West Coast because 80% of people who watch Sportsman's Channel and Outdoor Channel are from the Midwest and the South. And they don't know what it's like to run through the mountains and chase after elk. They have no emotional attachment to it. They have attachment to sitting in a goddamn chair in a tree for 8 hours. They think it's cool as shit. I can't fucking stand it. But, there's only so many hours a day I could play Candy Crush waiting for something to walk in front of me to shoot. So it just wasn't for me. So, and plus my big heavy ass up in a tree, we ain't doing that.
See,
I've fallen out of trees before.
I grew up in South Georgia. We hunted with dogs.
Mm-hmm. Dude, so I'm in a blind in North Carolina where you can use dogs. It's illegal out here. You can't use dogs. So you can't even walk with a pet when you hunt here. So I'm sitting in a blind, half asleep, and a fucking dog comes underneath my blind, up into my blind, and starts like sniffing and petting me. He's all happy, he's seeing me. I about like just filled my pants up, dude. I didn't know what it was. It was barely light out. It wasn't even to where like I was comfortable shooting anything, and these guys were doing a deer drive, and I'd never heard of it before. and they were on private property. They weren't supposed to be on the property I was on, but I was just like, oh man, dude, that dog is so lucky to be alive. And I'd never heard of it.
Oh yeah, when we did it, I mean that's all we did. We had the dogs that ran deer, and then when we weren't running deer, we were running hogs and trapping hogs. But yeah, it's quite the adrenaline rush. You know, obviously you're not shooting with a rifle. It's shotgun. You're shooting with a shotgun.
Yeah.
You're in dense woods, and you know,
walking on potato chips.
Yeah. And you when you hear the dogs, you might as well just bet that deer's already out where you're at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It was fun to watch them. I went on one.
Oh yeah.
Just as a spectator, I didn't shoot or anything. I just wanted to go see how it was done. It wasn't my
adrenaline rush.
It really wasn't. Like all of a sudden, like 10 deer start running by, and you're like, and it's just pandemonium. Blah blah blah. It's like a war zone. You're like, holy shit, this is crazy. Yeah. But
bunch of rednecks.
Yeah. Those are my people, man. I grew up white trash. Those are my people.
I'm glad to hear that you started out in film.
Yeah.
Like actually negatives, because I'm a photographer and I used to shoot weddings, and I still do occasionally, but weddings on film.
Oh, dude.
You know, you don't even know if you have images.
No, you don't.
You know for like a week or two.
Our wedding, when we hired our photographer, she was a beginner. We were the first wedding I think she had ever done.
Ouch. And
as a photographer, I got to see like some of the stuff that she had done already. And I was like, she's good. She's got really good eye. You know, she's got talent. And we didn't have a lot of money at the time because we were saving up for my wife to go to law school, you know, literally 4 months or 5 months later. So she like gave us like this price we couldn't pass up. I was like, fuck it. If she fucks up, whatever, you know, I have other friends that are take cell phone pics or whatever.
Yeah.
She crushed it.
Oh, awesome.
She did so good. And half of our photos were from a film camera. Mm-hmm. And because she was just like really into retro styles, she had a good printer that, you know, a good, you know, place that did, you know, all her prints. And then, you know, she did her negative work was really well. Now she's like, I mean, holy shit, you can't even talk to her for less than $3,000. But
yeah, there's so many. I bring that up because there's so many photographers that in the digital age, they overshoot to get, you know, a certain number of images that work. When back when it was film, you shot and you got perfect images each time because you had to work at it. You had to know light, you had to know
carrying around your light meter.
you had to know, like, dude, I had done it so often that I could walk into a room and go 5.6 at 125. That's what my meter would read. And, you know, that kind of thing. Just walk in and I know exactly how to set the camera and not even have to pull the meter out. Yeah. But there's so many people that haven't experienced film negative life.
They don't, man. And I even worked, like when I first started in like video, it was film too. It was 8 millimeters, or not 8 millimeters, but it was, you know, HDV tapes.
Yeah.
And so you're having to send those in to people to digitize them, or you digitize it from your actual camera, which like cut your camera life down in half. And, you know, that was like, and that was only 2011, 2012. You know, that's right when DSLR started making good HD. Like my first DSLR was a Nikon D5100, which is a kit camera from like Costco. And that was my first digital DSLR. I refused, like in 2004, 2005 is when I put my camera down. I refused to go digital. I didn't see the art in it. And then all of a sudden I'm like starting to see like, oh, wait a second, there's a lot more art in this. I can control way more.
Yeah.
And maybe I can make a better quality picture, and the artwork is going to be in the editing. And now I can control the color. And then I started like really geek out. And that wasn't until 2012. And then all of a sudden, then I was like, okay, well, I'm doing more video than I'm doing photo. This Nikon sucks. So I sold the Nikon, bought a Canon 60D, and this was before like 4K DSLR. There wasn't any of that out. So I bought that. And then I realized it's not full frame. I need a full frame. Everyone's telling me to get full frame. So I bought a Canon 6D because I didn't want to buy the Canon Mark D or the Mark III and 5D Mark III, which was like $3,000 at the time. I was like, holy shit. So for $1,900, I can get a camera and a decent lens out of the Canon 6D. And that, dude, I almost cried when I sold that camera. I made so much money and like had so much fun with that camera. but then I switched in 2018. I switched to mirrorless. I went with a Panasonic's GH5, which up until March of this year was my workhorse. I own 2 of them, and I still own one of them. Christian, who's he's using it right now. Probably he's taking all the shit off his Power Wagon. We just sold it, and he's been filming like dismantling everything. And I probably won't even get rid of that camera. It's just been so good, being able to work with that. But then we switched to Black Magics, which the first episode of Divergent is on red and Black Magics. I sold the Black Magics after that trip and bought red cameras. And we've been shooting red for video. And now I have a GH6, which is my run and gun stuff. But yeah, it's been this weird progression of just everything. And, we created this hunting show, which I thought it was fun. We had a blast. We killed some animals, which are the hardest thing to film. People don't give hunting shows enough credit on how hard it is to film. It's next to impossible.
Mm-hmm.
On the western side.
Not always be ready.
Wait, hold that thought.
Are you gonna fart? Or
do you remember? No. You're that was a few minutes ago. Do you remember the guy that was doing the show that shot the deer, cussed out his camera guy, and then shot a second deer, and it wasn't on his tag, and the camera guy was
the camera guy turned him in.
Camera guy's like, basically, he calls his camera guy like a fat F.
Oh, it's probably Bill Busbus of. It was like the son. Was it his son, or no, another guy? Was it like the big guy with a beard? And he's like his sons are always screwing with him.
I don't know that, but I mean he does have a beard. But anyway, the guy just the other day it popped up on my my memories feed where I was made a joke about it or whatever. But that's one of those guys in the hunting world that
like in the background he's got the deer heads with blood all over the wall or some bullshit.
He had a really good thing going. He had a good show going, and man, he just fucked it all up.
It sounds like Bill Busbus, which him and his sons, they own I can't remember the name of their film or their show. I was never a huge fan of it, but they own Wild Game Innovations, which is like they make trail cams and a bunch of other cheap shit. He got nailed with a poaching thing, but I don't remember what it was for. I actually saw him the other day. It looks like he's back on a show, and I was like, really, Outdoor Channel? This is what you guys just let him come back on, and he legitimately poached? Yeah, I don't understand any of that shit. But dude, I've worked with some of the biggest POSs in hunting. We had a guy on our crew he was one of the reasons I left. It was not healthy for any of us. It's already so stressful. Like filming wise, there's nothing more stressful. I've never worked on a really big crew. I've only worked on indie stuff. What fueled a lot of this, like after the hunting show, after I walked away in 2015, I walked away from it. And I was a stunt writer for a show called Booze Traveler. It's actually about liquor, right? And I'm riding a motorcycle because they were doing a thing on biker bars and places like that. It was a part of their thing, right? So my uncle had the host in his sidecar. He had a Ural and was driving around the host in his sidecar, and I was in the back, like riding wheelies and doing all sorts of crazy shit on a BMW. And so I was sitting back watching him film, and I was like, I've never been on it was a legit film set, 3 camera guys, a sound guy, producer, PA, all sorts of shit. And I'm like, and I look at my uncle who's sitting next to me, and we're behind the scenes, and he's like, can you do this? I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. No problem. This would not be hard at all. And he's like, why don't you make a show like this? And I text one of my friends who was at the time was working on the set of the show Smallville.
Oh,
and about Superman. Nice. And I'm like, and he went to film school and everything. And I was like, hey, I'm self-taught for everything. The way I learned how to edit was putting a Craigslist ad for somebody to come to my house and teach me how to edit, because I had an editing
you had a job
software. Yeah. This guy came, his name, I'll never forget him. He's always in debt. If he ever called and said, hey man, I need something. His name's Greg, and he runs a place called Neon Audio. He's out on the West Coast. Just the nicest guy in the world. Came up for $30 an hour, 2 hours a day generally, for like 3 weeks, taught me how to edit, and then taught me how to shoot to edit. And then I hired after that, I hired a guy named Grady Rawls, who is like a legend in the hunting industry. The guy just puts out cinematic, weird dude, but he puts out really cinematic shit. He knows his stuff. He's one of the hardest working guys I know. I hired him to really teach me how to shoot, to edit, and my whole crew. And then it just launched after that. So then when I got to being on the set with Booze Traveler, which was on Travel Channel, I was like, cool, I need to come up with something. Text my buddy Anthony, said, hey, I've got an idea for a show. My family has been in beer since I've been a little kid. You guys ever heard of Rogue Ales, Rogue Brewery? So they're famous for a thing called Dead Guy Ale. It's like a skeleton sitting on a barrel, and you can find it like Safeway, Vons, whatever. It's worldwide.
Yeah, okay.
But they started that in 1988. At one point, we were the second biggest microbrew company in the nation, with the first being Sam Adams. And I was like, my first job ever was working at the brewery, moving the bottling line and cleaning up and doing whatever I could, moving kegs around and shit like that. And I was like, well, I know how to microbrew. I started microbrewing when I was young, and I know the science behind it. I always geek out on it. And my best friend is like, he's been in either the sales portion of it or in the brewery portion of sales for like the last 24, 25 years. And I was like, dude, we collect bottles. Like, I have bottles of beer that have been aging for like 10 years, 8 years. And, I'm a nerd. I'm a beer nerd. So I was like, okay, cool. I got a Widmer hat on. So, anyways, I was like, hey, I've got a thing. I want to do this thing. I want to call it Brotherhood of Brew. And I want to travel around to different areas, do some cool adventure shit and film it. And then we go to a brewery, we film, tell their story, show their beers. And originally the first thing was like, I want to try all their beers. And then we tell them what we think is best. Right. Mm-hmm. So the first like 2 episodes, we sit around and we talk about it. We get fucking hammered.
Lee's been there.
How we have been able to finish episodes is beyond me. I'm like just barely keeping my eyes open and like falling down, and because we're drinking the whole time and I didn't know to like pace myself. I'm like, cool. Well, we're going cut to cut to cut. They're like, oh, hey, you need to drink more. Cut. We need to redo that again. And I'm just like, oh my, I'm just shit faced. And so we switched it up. I was like, no more doing like whole flights over and over and over again. We're just going to drink and talk. No more of like, which one do you thought was best? Right. So, but anyways, we did what, 7 episodes or 8 episodes for our first season of Brotherhood of Brew. Literally from the time I called Anthony to the time that we were filming was 3 weeks. Damn. Like I had called all my sponsors at the time, that I had in the hunting industry that were centric to like off-roading, like Warren. I've been with Warren for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And I'm on my 3rd project and Warren has stayed tight with me. I love those guys. We got like, I think 3 companies to basically pay for our pilot. And I put a little bit in and we ended up shooting 2 episodes in 4 days at 2 different breweries in Bend, Oregon. Nice. And we had the most fun I've ever had filming up until this Divergent Pathways thing, but we had so much fun doing it. And we're like, screw it, let's do it again. Went to Montana, went back to Oregon, and then we went out to Missouri. And somehow we made 8 awesome freaking episodes. It crushed it on Amazon. And that's really how like the production side of things started for me and for Psycan Media. And that's what led us until that we were supposed to shoot season 2 of Brotherhood of Brew. I was going to bring my best friend on. If you go onto our YouTube channel, Brotherhood of Brew, that's where it sits now. It's not on Amazon. You have to pay for it on Amazon now because our 18-month contract is up. Gotcha. But you can watch it for free on YouTube. And the 8th episode we have on there is a bonus episode. There's no real adventure on it. It's just me and my best friend getting shit-faced on a boat and drinking ciders. The last scenes of it, of us on the shore, we're like falling down drunk. You can't tell because we're sitting down, but we're so drunk. He's talking about how he thought lemons were grown in the dirt, not on a tree. And so,
holy crap, that sounds like Michael actually.
Yeah, we're pretty old.
I think I've been there.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, we just fit so well. And Anthony's like, dude, you guys need to co-host the next season. With his beer knowledge of like how to sell it, he knows all the notes. He knows he knows so much more about beer than I do. And then my knowledge of how to brew it. like the culture behind it, along with the adventure. Let's do it. And we had like 6 monster breweries lined up. We had checks getting ready to be written, and then the pandemic started. It killed it all.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'll ever be a second season. I hope there will be, because it's so much fun. It really deserves it. We switched the format up to where we're in the brewery more and telling more. We kind of screwed up and didn't really do enough about the breweries because we did the adventure part of it. So that's what, in March of 2020, at the very end, early April, is when we started really growing our Rogue Element channel. And it wasn't even a Rogue Element at the time. It was Sycan Media. And a good friend of mine, Tony, him and I were talking. He was actually, I hired him as my marketing company. He owns it's called Automatic Agency, and Tony Scott, awesome dude. I hired him to help me get some breweries and some other avenues and some sponsorships for our Brotherhood of Brew thing. And I signed him on literally a week before the pandemic, and then his job got really hard.
Dude, we've been talking about drinking, and I haven't made everybody do a mandatory whiskey shot.
Whiskey? Shit.
Oh, shit.
I don't even have whiskey in here.
Well, you can drink whatever. But I have to tell everybody in the world out there that it's mandatory.
Oh shit! Damn, I wish I'd have known. I got all sorts of whiskey inside.
This is
I just got this pussy IPA.
We've been drinking lately is Oil Fire.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Next time you see Chad, hit him up for some. He's probably got it. Or is
he brought Weller with us? Weller and something else.
He's. I'll tell you who else. Is it John from Agile? That joker's been ordering it by the case and shipping it out to California.
Hold on one second. I got something. So this stuff, this was sent to me, and we were supposed to do an episode with these guys. And it was like, you want to talk about dream come true. Like, I'm a big beat writer fan. Like, any nostalgic, really good writers like Jack Kerouac, all those guys. This guy, though, always stood out the most to me. And we got together with a company that bought these guys out. But they're based out of Key West. And I don't know how well you can see this, but it's Papas Pilar, Ernest Hemingway.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a rum, and it's phenomenal. This is the dark rum. And we were supposed to go film with them in Key West. And we're going to go out. We were going to go on the original Papas Pilar, which is Ernest Hemingway's actual boat. They own it. And we were going to be able to see how they made their rum. We were going to do some spear fishing, all sorts of shit. I almost cried when they said they couldn't do it because of the pandemic. It's always there, I think. But the rum is phenomenal.
Man, you were talking about ciders, and I remember one of the most surprising drunkest surprise that I've gotten was drinking Angry Balls, which is Angry Orchard. You take about 3 sips out of it, and then you pour hot damn in it. It's really, really good.
No shit.
And it sneaks up on your ass.
Oh, dude, cider in general just sneaks up on your ass. It's like drinking, like apple juice, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I'm really fucked up.
Yeah. I had a hard time getting home, which was only 2 houses down. So I was walking, and I had a hard ass time getting home after those nights that a buddy of mine that lived down the street, we would sit in his garage and just pound them.
I gotta ask this question. I know we're going to totally switch gears here. It is not after 9, so we've run through about an hour, but I'm just going to ask you this, and then you can just tell me, out of all the trailers that you've pulled, and I've looked through your Instagram and you've had a bunch of them, what's been your favorite trailer?
Probably the Opus OP4.
Wow.
Yeah,
fuck.
It's the only one that didn't fucking break down on me or like get water all over everything.
Lee's an Opus whore.
Now here he's they used to be a client of mine.
I bought my Opus in 2019, and I run their community Facebook and then their other website, and I built their dealers or part of their dealers website, and started their adventure run and their rendezvous and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm a big Opus fan.
So you work with Black Elk Media then on a lot of their stuff? Yeah. We did some stuff at the beginning of the pandemic with them. They needed photos mainly for their other company, Purple Line.
Yep.
So I did a bunch of their photos of like the wheel locks and a bunch of that stuff. That's back when I had the Raptor. I wanted to do more with them because they're right here in my backyard. They're East Bay.
Oh yeah.
They're in Pittsburgh. And it just never, they were actually supposed to be with us on the last episode of Divergent Pathways. And then I just didn't hear anything back from them. And now we're talking with some other trailer companies now. It's something I want to get into now that we're with, I'm doing some R&D and stuff with Skinny Guy campers on my Power Wagon.
With Jason?
Jason and Donovan. Yeah. God, they want to talk about great guys and a great product. Yeah. Holy shit. It's awesome. I literally
super cool.
You guys will eventually, I have like 7 episodes for YouTube that are just on the back burner that I can't edit because I've been editing this beast. I've got a bunch of footage. You'll see I do a shotgun trip. I think I leave at like 5 a.m. and go up to Bozeman, Montana. I think and then I come home the next day. I just went up to get the Skinny Guy camper, and I'm leaving this Friday morning. We're going on a 3-day trip up to northern Nevada. High Rock Canyon is the name of the trail. It's nothing super hard. It's like a 4 out of 10 on Onyx. Nothing. I mean, we'll have the Tiguan with us. So Nate's meeting us. He's he's in Oregon right now. So he's going to drive down on Thursday here in Alameda, and then we're going to cruise up. You guys will get to see what we sold the Power Wagon for. So Christian sold this Power Wagon. So long story short on that is it broke down in January, like 24th, I think is when we were in Death Valley filming the first episode or the first film. It broke down on day 2. He didn't get it back for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
That's how long it took them to fix it in Vegas. So I towed it. I pulled it with a tow rope, a SpaceX tow rope, because our buddy Doug works for Tesla, and his brother's an engineer for SpaceX. So we had like this long ass rope that's like rated for 120,000 pounds. It is legit towed a rocket before his piece of shit Power Wagon. And so it broke down. He gets it back home, right? He flies out to Vegas. They fix it. He drives it home. Now here's the issue. They fixed the transmission. They didn't fix the issue. So literally 4 days later, he grenades another transmission. And then it takes 2 more months. So for 5 months, it's basically in the shop. We get it back like maybe a month before we shoot the last episode, the 3rd episode of the series. And while we're on the trip, the first day it gets a check engine light. And it's pushing the same codes, which was a shift solenoid. And so and at that point, they'd replaced the transmission cooler, a full transmission internal. I mean, all sorts of shit. And so I'm like, well, at some point, I'm going to be towing him back out again. Luckily, it made it all the way home. And then he took it back to the shop, and they just said, we're going to fix it, but you should get rid of it. So he traded it in this last weekend and got something else, which I'm not at liberty to say, but you guys will see it on.
Gotcha. We'll tune in.
I think Wednesday or Thursday, you'll see it on Facebook. Or not Facebook, but Facebook and Instagram.
Hopefully bought a Chevrolet or GMC.
I was hoping I was pushing him towards the Silverado ZR2 because they're the shit, but not a single fucking dealer will drop below a 10 grand over markup. And I told him to never pay that. So,
I wish I'd have known there's one right here in town. That's
MSRP,
just MSRP.
Yeah. Well, you'll see he downsized, but for the he did. It's sick. It's we're gonna have a lot for me in my background. I'm stoked. I can't wait. I'm already.
He got to be across.
Yeah, I found him a used Pontiac Aztec. He's got some mom jeans so he can show his front butt. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Dude.
We really kind of talk about that. We need to get a couple of Via Crosses, find some cheap ones. Although the prices are starting to go back up. They're just a weird, wacky, weird vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get better for him, though.
You know what? He's in here and he's making a comment, so I have to shout him out because I'm going to tell you right now, man. I've worked with probably 30 videographers since I started filming in 2012.
Braxton.
I have never worked with somebody that works as hard as fucking Braxton.
He runs up and down the trail.
He's a goddamn mountain goat, dude. There's times where I'm like, we call him Baby Goggins.
Baby Goggins.
Stay hard, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Dude, I almost pulled a gun on him. I don't think he knows how close he was to getting shot. It was literally in my hand and a shell in it. Like, we're in Death Valley, and I thought I was by myself, and then all of a sudden I see this face in my window was up, and I'm on the driver's side, and I'm waiting for people to talk back on the camera to catch up to me because I dropped camera guys off. And all of a sudden this face is just in my window, dude. And my gut reaction was just reach for my gun, which was right next to me. Yeah. And I reached it up and ejected or put a shell in. And I mean, I was like, don't you ever do that. Like, all I saw was like eyes, and then he just starts smiling. But dude, that was my first time. I mean, so he flew in from Florida. I flew him into Oakland, and I was working on my truck that night. People don't know when you see the very first episode, and you see the first time you see me, I had been up for like 30 something hours. And that night, or that all day, I was replacing my front bumper. I had to rewire my truck for my fridge. I mean, my truck was stock 3 days before we went on this trip. It was completely bone stock. And then we lifted it, put 37s on, chassis unlimited front bumper, which at that time was a prototype front bumper. So there was all sorts of shit I had to do to make it fit that they didn't know about. Like, I'm grinding stuff. I'm like doing all sorts of things. Now they've made it to where it's completely bolt on because of me. But I was up until, I think I was putting that bumper on until almost 3 a.m. And then I had finally got all the wire. I got everything done, except I couldn't figure out why my lights weren't turning on. They weren't grounding out right. And then I ended up finding out I had to piggyback the switch system that I was using. It wasn't wired correctly, and there was no instructions for it. And I couldn't figure out, it wasn't grounding out to my frame. So I had to run something. We did that on the first night in Death Valley. So second night on the trip, first night in Death Valley, you'll see me. We're working under the hood, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I finally get my lights to work out second night. And I needed those lights. And you guys, I think you've seen it in our previews, the silt storm we were in. It was 70 mile an hour winds and silt. Like, I was the lead car and had zero visibility. The lead car. But everyone behind me, I couldn't even imagine how bad it was for them behind us. And but this guy, especially the second day, the first day I knew I was like, yeah, the guy's talented, he's good and stuff. You know, that was the first time I'd met him. Really nice guy, soft spoken. And my buddy Jeremiah, who's in here, Overland Pioneers, he's like, you got to hire Sweet Mocha. I'm like, yeah, he sends me his info on, or he sends me like his ID card or whatever, for the phone, and it comes over. It's not in my phone as Braxton. It's in his Braxton, aka Sweet Mocha. But the second or the third day we're in there, all of a sudden he's just sprinting by with a camera, and then like it was just that whole time. Like, Christian's the one that said he's like David Goggins, and then we just started calling him Baby Goggins. And I remember on the very last day, I'm like, where's Braxton? Where's Braxton? And we just Evan, who's with me, he's in my passenger seat filming me, and he's like, oh, he's up on that mountain. And you look up, and there's like, you see this little speck, and he's up there filming us on top of this mountain. I'm just like, how the hell do you get up there?
Sounds
exactly.
Right.
The first time I had Braxton with me in the truck after the rendezvous last year, I think it was not this year, but last year. And we were going to go shoot this little cocktail series for the More Expo. And he's like, hey, hang on a second. And he jumps out of the passenger seat, and I'm like, where the fuck did he go? I mean, he was like, phew, gone. I'm like, dude, you're like a gazelle.
Like a 20 mile an hour gimbal. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. And then he runs back from running up the hill, and then he runs back down the hill, and he gets in the truck. He's not even breathing hard.
No.
And I'm like, dude, I'd have to have an oxygen bottle.
I know. I breathe hard just watching him.
Yes.
Yeah.
No homo.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, we are just over an hour. We keep these shows about an hour, but we're going to need to have you back on and talk about some more stuff.
Absolutely.
And maybe like whenever the Divergent Pathways gets going, let's have you back on so we can kind of gear everybody up and tell them where to check it out and all that kind of stuff. So tell everybody your social medias, where they can find you, what's going on, and
we're so you can find us on Instagram at Rogue Element Adventure, not Adventures. I don't know why I did that. I just did it. Some other clown has Rogue Element, and I can't get it from him. He hasn't used it in years. I've offered him money, he never responds. But YouTube is our biggest thing. If you can follow us on YouTube, that's the biggest thing. And it's super easy to find us. It's youtube.com/Rogue Element. That's the easiest way to find us, or just, search for Rogue Element. You'll see the green eagle. That's the biggest thing. Follow us on there. I mean, we have over, I think, 150 something vlogs on there. We've got one film called What is Overlanding, which is like kind of it's really highly cinematic. It's fun, but it's kind of our poke back at the industry and the stupid question, like, what is overlanding to you, which I hate.
Love it.
And we got some other stuff on there. Soon after this Divergent Pathways comes out, you'll see a pilot we shot that never went anywhere. That's really awesome. We learned how to be trophy truck drivers, basically. So that'll be hitting soon after this one, probably right after the first of the year. But next year, our plan is to do about 100 vlog series on our YouTube channel. And you're going to just start seeing a ton of stuff from us. This is, I'm hoping, just the launch pad of it. And, we'll just go from there.
All right. Well, we are super excited. Thanks for coming on, Jeff. You got something else, Lee?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, when you're out on the trails, what's your preferred method of communication?
Midland.
Yeah.
We use I use the MXT 500. I think I was the first guy to get it too. I feel special about that.
Nice.
Yeah. And I just got to teach Braxton how to keep one on him.
Keep a radio on him.
Yep. Yeah. Every time I turn around, he doesn't have a radio on it because he just jumps out of the back of the truck like a greyhound, and he's out.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for pushing all the buttons, doing all the things that you do, making those stupid animated videos.
Oh, that was great.
Keep
I love
going.
that.
Love it. Can't wait to see what else comes out. Everybody out there in the world, thank you so much for watching, sharing, doing all the things that you do. And whatever you do, make sure that you go all over.